Frontal lobe is involved in motor function, problem solving, memory, language, initiation, judgment, impulse control, and social and sexual behavior. Your frontal lobe is located in the front of your cranium.
Now we are presenting Dr. Giovannini from Italy.
My name is Rachel, I am from Italy. I'm here to discuss some specific disorders associated with damaging your frontal lobe. One of the disorders would be apraxia, which is the inability to perform complex sequences of movement. Blunt trauma would be shaken baby syndrome, which damages the very fragile nerve cells in your brain. Another specific disorder of frontal lobe damage would be diffuse axonal injury, which can occur from whiplash. Whiplash stretches the very delicate axonal fibers in your brain.
I will introduce to you Dr. Victoria Schmelding from the University of Texas.
My name is Victoria, and I'm from the University of Texas. With me, I have a list of specific syndromes associated with damaging your frontal lobe. If you damage any part of your frontal lobe, you might have impaired concentration, reduced fluency of speech, apathy, inattentiveness. You might be excessively argumentative. You could possibly have the inability to walk in a straight line, and there could also be a possibility of personality change. Going to give us our real life case on her grandma. So could you tell us what happened and how she hurt herself?
Would have been about 15 years ago. My grandmother, aunt, and cousin were in a car accident, and my grandmother was in the back seat, was thrown forward and hit her head. It was really in the corner of her head and her frontal lobe on the anchor for the seatbelt, for the driver's side actually. And she was in the hospital for a very long time. She had some other trouble. I think she broke an arm and scratches and bruises, but really the injury to her head was the worst of it.
Alright, let me see. Did it change her in any way, or was she still the same?
Yes. It changed her a lot. She was, what I remember from my grandmother, and after this accident, we just kind of thought that she was a different person. Before that, she was very sweet and kind and laid back and would never say a cross word about anyone, very religious and just a wonderful, wonderful, neat person. After the accident, she kind of picked and chose who she was nice to. She would make rude comments to people and make fun of people, and she was a completely different person. I felt bad for my aunt, my dad's sister. She was particularly bad to her. It really hurt her feelings. Her mother was just horrible to her. Yeah. Would make fun of her and tell her she had a big butt. Oh. And I kept thinking that if she ever, when she died and went to heaven, when she's up there now, that somehow she would get videotapes from God of the way she treated people, and she would be appalled because she just never said a word about anybody until after the accident. And then there were lots of bad words about lots of people.
I see. And when did this happen? And sort of give us a little timeline here.
Well, the accident was
right?
about 15 years ago. She was in the hospital, I would say, for about 2 months because she was in her mid-60s. And then she's been gone about 5 years now. So there were about
10 years there where she was completely different.
She was totally different. And like I said, it was harder on my aunt than anyone. She actually was probably nicer to me than anybody in the family. She never really ever said anything about me. I remember one time that my mom and my aunt and my grandmother were going to visit someone else in the hospital, and my grandmother had stopped to get a drink and was walking behind my mom and commented on how she thought she was kind of broad across the backside. Ooh, my mom was not happy. But Christmas time, my grandmother would give everybody really ugly sweaters, and I got very cool pottery. I don't know why. I was very lucky that she was nice to me, but she was a completely different person, and it was a dramatic change. It wasn't just a few things. It was.
So it was obviously caused by the accident and
Yes.
her injury, and that's what
Definitely.
the doctor said and everything.
Yeah, and the doctors had told my dad after it happened that very likely there would be a personality change because she had some damage to her frontal lobe, and they said that was one of the most common symptoms of that type of injury was, and you never know with a person how severe,
Yeah.
and that's what the doctor said. Some personalities changes are more severe than others, and this one was pretty dramatic.
And did it happen like from day one, or did you just kind of start seeing it over
Well,
time?
I think pretty much from the very beginning.
Screaming in the hospital
Well,
bed.
yeah. I mean, I remember my grandfather talking about how she would be nasty to the nurses, and and when she got home, when he was trying to take care of her, when she was still recuperating, oh, she was just horrible to him. Carl, do this, and you're not doing that right, and you're stupid, and
Something
yeah.
she would never do before.
Oh no. It wasn't even. They weren't even close to the same.
I see.
It was very sad. It was very hard for most of my family. I didn't see much of it. Like I said, she was nice when I was around, so I was very lucky. But my grandfather, my aunt especially, took the brunt of it, and it was just really, really difficult for them. And at her funeral, everybody, of course, was heartbroken, and I was devastated. My aunt said, really, truly, she died 15 years ago, or 10 years ago it would have been.
Yeah.
Because, it just wasn't the same person that we had lost. So that might have actually made her death a little easier, but
It's still tough.
yeah. Yep.
Okay.
We now will introduce to you Dr. Anna Mathers from the Neurology Labs of Washington. Hi, I am Dr. Anna Mathers from the Neurology Labs of Washington State. Did you know traumatic brain injury, also known as TBI, is the leading cause of death in people under the age of 45. TBI occurs every 15 seconds. Approximately 5 million Americans currently suffer from disabilities due to TBI. The leading causes of TBI are falls, sports injuries, and motor vehicle accidents. When a person is in a motor vehicle crash, their head can hit off their steering wheel, which causes the brain to hit the inside of the skull. This can cause a great deal of damage to the frontal area. Anyone can suffer from TBI. If someone is in a car crash, they may not necessarily be the driver hitting their head off the steering wheel. A passenger can hit their head off the dashboard or off the windshield.